If you are clicking on this video, it's probably because you watched a lot of my YouTube videos around the time that I was filming regularly in like 2016, 2017. And now it is 2026. To this day, I still have people in the comments saying, where did this girl go? Where did she disappear to? And I'm going to try to tell that story as concisely as possible. It kind of started around 2014-ish. I had to leave the film industry because I had a lot of health issues that were unexplained. Lots of head and neck problems that were very kind of unusual, not your typical symptomology. And long story short, I had a lot of failed treatments. In fact, some of those treatments gave me something called secondary adrenal insufficiency, which is like a secondary form of Addison's disease, which is what JFK had, because I was being pumped full of steroid treatments. Went to the Mayo Clinic and discovered that I have a rare genetic condition. I had major neurosurgery. Later, a couple of years after that neurosurgery that I had in 2019, I found out that I had 2 brain aneurysms that I still have. They're being monitored. But what occurred in that time? Obviously, I had tremendous health issues and battles that I was fighting. And so what happened was I was no longer able to live on my own at a certain point. I had to move back home and move all of my things into a storage unit. And my apartment had essentially been my YouTube studio. And I lost sort of my filming location, and I didn't feel well enough to film any videos. I was doing quite poorly for a while. It took me a year to recover from a neurosurgery where I had to have my head, like my literal skull, screwed into my spine. So I have a plate in the back of my head. It is connected pretty much almost like a neck brace into my skull and into the top vertebrae that I have. So it's almost like I am wearing an internal neck brace. I have lost 50% of a normal person's mobility, so when I turn my head, I look very weird because that's about all I got. If I move my body with it, it looks more natural. So I kind of have to do that so people don't see a difference. I'm part droid, so I feel like I'm kind of a Sith from Star Wars in that regard. A lot of the Sith, they've got a lot of metal in their bodies, and that's kind of what I have going on. So, but what am I doing now? I told you what was going on then. Those were years of great struggle, great adversity, worrying if I would ever become anything and if I was ever going to find another passion again. Well, I'm proud to tell you that today I am a PhD student, a doctoral student in psychology. I primarily do a lot of research. I'm very much interested in developing interventions and studying interventions, particularly around transitional periods in people's lives, seeing that those periods were very difficult for me, navigating health and having my life sort of uprooted. So my thought was, how can I help study this, these transitional periods, these changes, and what kind of interventions can I help build for these people so that they can have resilience and persistence and be able to integrate this into their identity without it being victimhood, but it becoming a badge of strength and persistence and grit. So I'm here today representing that with all the health issues. I've had 3 other surgeries related to my condition. Despite that, I am a PhD student at an R1 research institute studying psychology. And I'm very, very proud of that. I was a D student in geometry in high school. And so I never would have thought like my entire life, I never would have guessed that this would be the culmination of all of my skills, that it would be in scholarship at a high level, like getting a doctorate. And so where does that leave me? I don't know. When it comes to filmmaking, I did teach film at one point in my gap year before starting my doctorate, and I ended up, shooting a film with my students that got into a couple of film festivals. And so I haven't given up film. I've tried to figure out what I want to do, if I want to continue YouTube or not, whether that's going to be worthwhile, and whether people would even still be interested in what I do, which is, unfortunately, I'm not some big 80s influencer like I was before. I still have affinity for the 70s and 80s music, the culture, all of that. But my life has radically changed since then. I'm very much a nerd now. I spend a lot of time in scholarship, studying, research, data analysis, and science. I'm very much into methodology, statistics, talking about different concepts related to psychology. Especially self-regulation is kind of an area that I'm very much interested in, how people cope, coping strategies. But I just wanted to come on here and share with you guys that, I never abandoned YouTube. I just ended up being put into a position in life where it was no longer something that I could do and could do regularly. But the story, though it was kind of sad at first, has led to this sort of triumphant kind of new, I guess, beginning, you'd say. I'm like into my second year as a PhD student, though, so it's not really a new beginning. But I just want to tell people that's out there, I want everyone to know that, failure and adversity is a teacher. It is required sometimes for greatness and for gratitude of where you are. There are so many people that I see that don't appreciate the education that they're able to receive. They're on their devices all throughout their classes. I see this a lot in undergrad students. And there's so many people, whether that be in different countries or people who are disabled like I was, that would love to be sitting in that seat. Millions of students would love to be able to get the opportunity to sit in that seat. And so I have so much gratitude in my heart, and I try to teach that to my students as a teaching assistant at my university. But I just wanted to come on here and give an update. I'm not really sure why at this particular time of life I decided to. It's probably because, I have been stable and in my place for a while, and in my new apartment and in my new life. Even though it can be quite chaotic, I wear multiple hats as a graduate student. But these are the things that, again, I'm very grateful for. It's hard to complain about the things that I'm going through when I didn't even have that opportunity a few years ago to even have the struggles that I'm dealing with now. And I kind of am very much obsessed with space now as sort of a personal motif and metaphor for persistence, because we blew up so many rockets before we got to the moon, and humanity, essentially through failure, reached the stars. So one of my favorite Latin phrases is per aspera ad astra, which means through adversity, through the stars, to the stars. And that's sort of one of my mottos in life now. And I wanted to share that with you guys. Is that no matter where you are, whatever struggles you're going through, you can still make it to the moon. We did it with very little resources. I did it with very little resources. and you can too. So I don't know how moving forward what you guys want, if you want me to continue making videos, and if so, what do you want me to make videos about? What would you be interested in me talking about? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you want from me. I still sing, you know, some. I still am artistic. I just don't have as much time for that. But let me know if there's something that you would be interested in seeing, and maybe I can make it happen. We will